everybody, welcome back to YMTG Taps. I'm Bighead Joe.
And I'm Joey Pasco.
And I'm not Joey Pasco. I had to try really hard not to say that. We're back. It's been 2 weeks. We both played in Star City Games Opens. Joey played in the Team Open in Baltimore, and I played in the Standard Open in Dallas. We both had about the same results. Meaning, spoilers, you didn't see our pictures up on consecutive weeks on the Star City Games website, so we didn't win. So anyway, we had an interesting sort of, parallel kind of thing where usually when me and Joey are playing in events, we're playing totally different decks. We're playing decks that, the other one would almost never play, or would have to play because they were lent the cards because they sure don't own all the cards for it. That would definitely be my case with Control. Joey has always played Control. What did you play in the modern portion of the Team Open?
So for some reason, about a month ago, I had this idea or urge, I don't know what you want to call it, to play Burn. And so I picked up the deck online. I played it. I had so much fun with it that day. That I ended up sticking with it, and that's what I ended up playing in the event. It's completely opposite what I'm used to playing, so I know that's the big topic is why Burn. But even though I didn't have success with it in the tournament itself, I loved playing the deck, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I can kind of go into details about the deck, about why Burn, I guess, right now.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I guess I'm so used to playing decks where I immediately start off with, do I have the right answers, right? And am I going to have time to answer the threats? What's going to happen? Like, that's one of the reasons why I've always liked to play, 2-color decks versus 3-color decks, because, the mana consistency really matters. And when you're going to be assaulted from the first turn, right away. So you really need to make sure you can hit your colors. So
and that's why I like to play 1-color decks. But anyway,
right.
Go on.
Exactly. So you kind of are already leading me in that direction. And it's like, I just wanted to be on the other side of things. Yeah. There's this whole, we all know the quote, there are no wrong threats, only wrong answers. And I think I just kind of felt like trying something where I didn't have to question whether or not I had the correct answers. It was just, I'm going to play something like straightforward, elegant. Its plan is to just dome you for 3 every turn or multiple times a turn. That's the basic plan. And it wants to finish games quickly. So, I like the concept of, like in the NFL, one of the big things, or just in football, one of the things is if your offense can stay on the field, you take possessions away from your opponent. And I love that concept, right? Like the time of possession battle, when you see teams that's like they've had it for 38 minutes to the other team's 22 minutes, and that's like huge. And that's one of the best ways to beat a team that has a great offense, is to just make sure your offense stays on the field long enough. You keep your defense fresh and you just take possessions away from them. And I think the same applies in this case with like a deck like Burn. And I love that concept. I'm going to take turns away from you. You might say, I'm good if I get to turn 5. I'm just going to make sure you don't get to turn 5. Like that's kind of like the plan A,
Mm-hmm.
Hope I can end the game before turn 5. And I don't know, that concept has appealed to me for a while. Just the kind of elegance of a Burn deck, just very linear, nothing complicated. I don't need to assemble some sort of combo. It's just, I don't even need to protect my creatures. It's like, fine, you killed it, whatever, like it's just, I don't need to worry about really anything. I'm either going to do it or I'm not. And so I really, really loved kind of switching gears mentally, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. And it's kind of translated. I was already dabbling in mono red in Standard anyway because of Arena,
right,
and that being such like a straightforward deck. So I think that kind of helped push me in that direction, because I was kind of playing with that style already in Standard. And even though that wasn't the deck that I wanted to play. It was just one that I was playing because of the best of one kind of speed of games, because I didn't always have enough time. So that was part of it. And then that's kind of continued over the last month. The deck I'm playing most right now on Arena is Azorius Aggro. So not mono red, but I mean, it's like I'm going to play guys and just go wide and try to make sure that I have all the threats. And, I have a few answers. Deputy of Detention, I've got Conclave Tribunal. But other than that, my answer is go around you. You put a big dude in the way, it's like, all right, one of my guys is getting eaten, but the other guys are getting through.
Right. I'm skipping way ahead here. But I was watching Steven play a round of white aggro last weekend at the Dallas Open. And I was really surprised. He was playing, and I'm standing behind him. I couldn't say anything, obviously. But he was playing against the mono blue deck. And I was really surprised to see him take out a History of Benalia and add like a Mortify or something. It was like a removal spell. And I'm like, dude, like that deck is just, 8 creatures and 26 dive downs. Like, why are you adding removal spells? They do not, they always have the dive down. It's just all dive. The deck is just all dive down. So, like, why are you trying to kill their creatures when you can just go around their creatures? Because they got to eventually, they got to attack to beat you.
Right.
And if you can just go around them, okay, you'll lose a creature or two, but they can't crack back at all. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just one of those things where I was like, I don't know. I mean, and I loved, he did not go with the blue-white, so he didn't have access to Deputy of Detention, which is great because if they have dive down, which they, like I said, they always have dive down, Deputy of Detention is still a 1/3 on your board that you can add counters to with Loxodon. You can pump with your Benelish Commander or whatever it's called. You know what I mean? Like there's still
Marshall.
Marshall. Stephen Marshall ran the Marshalls, so it's very appropriate that he ran that card. But yeah, so I was just very surprised to see that. But yeah, that's like one of the best things about that deck is you just I'm going to go around. Can't go over it, can't go under it. Let's go around it. Do you remember that from Miss Steingetz's class?
I vaguely. It sounds familiar, but you're going back 33 years.
At least. Yeah, we're really old.
Yeah, so I did not have very good success with the deck at the tournament, as we kind of addressed. But just to kind of quickly go over what happened, I mulliganed to 5 more that day than I ever have in one day in my life. So I don't know what happened. Bad shuffling, arena shuffler, whatever, but basically that was certainly part of it. But I played round 1. I played against a guy named Thomas. He played blue-white control. He had main deck Absorb in Modern, which is not something you see in Modern, and main deck Blessed Alliance. So that was not happening for me. I was fighting through that game 1, and he eventually did win. We were in game 2 when my teammates both won their matches, so we just stopped. So I don't think I was going to get anywhere if his main deck was already set up to beat me, and apparently he had more life gain and that kind of thing in his sideboard. So whatever, maybe, but it wasn't a loss. Round 2, I faced against Jonathan Rossum. He was playing Amulet Titan. I mulled to 5 game 1. I won game 2, and game 3 was close. I had him on the next turn, but he attacked me for 32 with 2 Primeval Titans. So that didn't happen. But this was one of the third round was kind of interesting. It was a guy named Dane. He was playing White-Black Eldrazi, and that's not a matchup that I had played against, and I wasn't really familiar with it too much, even from like the Jeskai or blue-white side of things, because that's what I've played the most Modern is with those control decks. But and maybe it was because I didn't really care about this card, but Wasteland Strangler was a beating. So
what does that do?
It's 3 mana. I think it's a 3/2, and it's devoid. It's like a black and 2. When it enters the battlefield, you can place a card your opponent controls from exile into their graveyard, and target creature gets -3/-3. And it's like, okay, cool. It's a removal spell. But you know what sits in exile? Rift Bolt and cards from Light Up the Stage.
No.
So I'm sitting there feeling pretty good. Game 1, I've got like a Goblin Guide on board. He has an Aether Vial, and I don't think any creatures on board. I was doing some damage. He plays Wasteland Strangler, takes my Suspended Rift Bolt, kills my Goblin Guide, vials in a Tide Hollow Sculler, and takes my Searing Blaze, which was going to be the removal for the Strangler that I was I was like, okay, I guess I'll. So that just, that just didn't happen. But I just thought Wasteland Strangler, wow, that is a really good card against burn with everybody using Light Up the Stage, because if it's, as long as it sits there in exile long enough for them to get the Strangler down, which they can do at instant speed with the Aether Vial. Right, so, you could cast Light Up the Stage and, they can vial in the Strangler and take one of your cards. So as soon as they get priority. Round 4, I beat Tron 2-0 in about 7 minutes. Yeah. so that was fun.
You gotta make them have it. Yeah,
absolutely. And Tron just didn't have it. He was saying, I have Wormcoil Engine main deck, but never saw it.
Yeah, where is it?
But round 5, I played against Hollow One, a guy named Slater, and game 1, I was doing okay, or at least I thought I had an okay hand. It was average, but he plays a Goblin Lore on, I guess it was turn 2 or turn 3. He drops 2 Bloodghasts into the graveyard and 3 Hollow Ones into play. So that game was over. And then, it was turn 2 that he did that. So
Ryan loves that card.
Game 2, I mulliganed to 5 and lost. So it was like this. It just was not happening for me. My last round was against Jeskai Control. They had Sphinx's Revelation, which again is a card you don't really see anymore in Modern, but this guy was playing with it. I don't know if he was playing with Teferi. A guy named Alex. Who
were his teammates?
His teammates were Lloyd Frias and Wes Shaw, who are friends of ours. And that round was kind of like. What's that?
So from the old school Brewport days.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a round against some friends, and at that point the wheels had fallen off anyway. We weren't doing well, so it was like, let's just play for fun and then drop. So that's what we did. But just to give you a sense of things, both control opponents had main deck, like not just Lightning Helix, like that's expected out of Jeskai, but main deck Absorb, Blessed Alliance, Sphinx's Revelation. They came prepared to see burn, I guess, because of Light Up the Stage and Skewer the Critics. They expected a lot of burn, which is correct. But yeah, that was rough. So it was a rough event, but I had a lot of fun. I think. So I got the list, the whole 75 from Mike Flores, and I think the list was great. I think my mistake was I should have maybe created my own sideboard or had more experience sideboarding with the 15 cards that Mike had, because I think I ran into a lot of trouble with that. I didn't quite have a sideboard guide. I just kind of was winging it. And the sideboard included 4 Collective Brutality, 4 Thoughtseize, 3 Fatal Push. So what is that, 11 cards? And then 4 Searing Blood. So it was a tricky kind of thing to sideboard for me, and I made that mistake of just going in with not enough experience with that. Did you have like a
written sideboard guide for
No,
yourself?
I didn't have any notes or anything, because actually this is another part of this is I was sick on Thursday night and then all day Friday.
That's right.
So
you almost didn't go at all.
Yeah, it was like the morning of I decided to go. So that, no excuses or anything, but I didn't use Friday to prepare in the way that I had planned.
And you didn't have time to write a sideboard guide, or if you did have time, you were busy being sick and not
so that
focused on that.
Right. And yes, if you listened to last episode and my daughter was sick, I caught it a few days later. So that's basically what happened. Not fun, but anyway, so that was, if I were to play the event again, I do want to try, or I have been trying, and I've liked playing a couple of copies of Shard Volley, either 1 or 2 copies, because I kept feeling like I was flooding out, and just having 1 or 2 more copies of a burn spell, I think it would have been useful, because this is I played the not the stock version of burn that was around for a long time prior to Ravnica Allegiance. I'm playing, this deck is more low to the ground, a lot of 1-drops. It played Bump in the Night. It was red-black, not red-white. So there's no Boros Charm, no Lightning Helix, none of the white sideboard cards. Obviously, I mentioned all those black sideboard cards,
right.
so it's pretty clear. So mainly what it does is you've got 20 bolts or something like that. There's not, and that's not even counting Shard Volley. But you've got the Rift Bolts, the Bump in the Nights, the Lightning Bolt, Lava Spike, Skewer the Critics. That's, I don't know how many cards that is, 15, and whatever. Or I'm sorry, that's it. That's 5 times 4. I named 5 cards, so 20 bolts. It's really lean. There's really no 2-drops in the deck other than Eidolon of the Great Revel. So I think having and Searing Blaze was in the deck, 3 copies of that. So it's a lean deck. It can play and win off of 1 land, which tells you a lot that all these mulligans to 5 weren't that questionable. Either they were mostly land, 4 or 5 lands and 2 or 3 spells or something, or they were no land. And I'm because if I had 1 land in hand, I would have kept, because most of the deck is 1-drops. I would have,
right.
Especially if I had a creature. I guess maybe I would have considered mulliganing, but it was just bad. But I had so much fun with the deck, and I'm still playing Burn, and loving it, and it's my deck of choice right now in Modern.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you ban Jace Mind Sculptor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's too bad that Jace is banned until 1 year ago. He was unbanned.
Jace was unbanned?
Jace was unbanned a year ago.
Oh my god! And you're not playing 4 copies of Jace in whatever damn deck you're playing?
Yeah, in my Burn deck. I'm saying
though, that was your card. That's. I mean, it's not just pet cards are pet cards. I mean, I can't even remember the name of some of the pet cards I've had, but they're all terrible, right? Jace Mind Sculptor, it's a solid choice for a pet card, and I feel like it's one of those things where, especially where you were so adamant about them unbanning it for so long.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, what are you going to say?
Well, so yeah, Jace is unbanned. Jace isn't as powerful as people expected. Now, I don't know how he would have been if he had been legal at the start of the format, but at this point in time, as of, I guess it was February 12th, 2018, they unbanned him, and he has seen play, but it's not he's not dominating. So Jace sees play mostly in blue-white control, and occasionally in Jeskai control. But the deal is, you're tapping out on turn 4 with shields down. Meanwhile, you can play Teferi, tap out on turn 5, but then untap 2 lands, and your shields are up. So Teferi sees more play just because of that, because he's essentially a 3-mana planeswalker, whereas Jace can, you can play something, you can have a really expensive bounce spell that eats an attack or a removal spell.
Wow. I
or
thought
you can have a really expensive brainstorm, and
I thought you were just rounding. It was literally 1 year ago today.
Yeah, February 12th.
That's so
I remember.
Crazy. That's so crazy. Wow. Well, I guess I'm as caught up with the banned and restricted announcements as I am with memes. So I guess that's pretty good.
I mean, Jace is still great, but you can't be behind. He's not great. If you're behind against one creature, sure, I guess play Jace, bounce it or whatever, but that's just not really the situation in Modern.
Feels so crazy to me. Just feels crazy to me that they got Jace and nobody playing it. I want to buy Jace's because that sounds insane. No, I want to play Jace. I want to play Jace in Modern.
I don't want to give you the impression nobody's playing it, but he's not the automatic 4-of card that, and he's not dominating. And technically, Jeskai and Blue-White aren't even great. I mean, they're top tier decks, but they're not. They're nothing like Dredge and Amulet Titan and Is It Phoenix, probably the best deck in Modern right now. I mean, there's a lot more decks that are more linear and powerful than a control deck. And that's really the problem for control in Modern is there are too many decks attacking from too many angles, and you have too many of the wrong, sometimes your answers don't line up. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you're Jeskai and you go up against humans and you're like, this is great. I have all kinds of removal spells.
Right.
And I just kill their guys and win play a planeswalker and win the game.
Right.
But that's not, if you're not playing up against, a good matchup or your answers don't line up, that's the problem. And that's why I wanted to play something like Burn, where I'm like, I may be playing against a bad matchup. This may be a terrible matchup, but if I win before they can dig their heels in, or I get them low enough before they dig their heels in, and then just, top deck a Burn spell at the right time, it doesn't matter. Even if I'm like, yeah, my deck has a bad matchup, but you're at 1 and here's a 3 damage Burn spell and you don't have an answer. So that's it. That's kind of the appeal of playing something so aggressive.
Right. So
your tournament.
Yeah. I played in the Dallas Open. It was standard. It was $60. $60?
Yeah, I know. The price. Oh.
Jeez, man. These tournaments, it's just crazy. I mean, now you make day 2, you pretty much guaranteed $100 check, It's like top 64 payout, $100. So you got to make day 2. And I guess, it's one of those things where if you don't think you can make day 2, and it's not just like a team event, like you were there with your friends, so it's like, cool, at least I'm hanging out with my friends all day playing. I'm sitting there by myself, Steven's somewhere else in the winners' tables. and I'm all the way back in like the 300s because I'm good at Magic. It's a little more lonely. So, if you show up feeling like you can't win, it's almost like no point in showing up at all. So Wednesday night, I've been testing some decks. I was already set on red because I had mono white cards, but I didn't have a lot of the staples. Like I didn't have the histories. I didn't have stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I had a good chunk of the core of the deck. And I had cards for Burn, or some version of red. And I talked to Steven, and I asked Steven what he wanted to play. And Steven was kind of going back and forth. But I told Steven I had 2 decks available. He drove down there. He paid for parking. I was like, you pick what deck you want, So he seemed pretty set on this Orzhov aggro. So mono white, but splashing black for sideboard cards.
I was gonna ask. So Mortify, you mentioned. Were there any other black cards that Steven was playing in his white weenie deck?
Whatever the Plague Crafter, is that the name of it? The one that
the one that you have to or both players sacrificed a creature or planeswalker.
Right. He had that in the sideboard. I think he had Duresses in his sideboard.
Okay.
Some other things like that. I don't remember what he played main deck, if he played anything main deck. But he didn't go very heavy into the black-white creatures. It was mostly just the mono-white deck, splashing black for sideboard and removal.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things I think about black-white in terms of a deck like this would be Afterlife, because Tithe Taker is already Tithe Taker and Hunted Witness technically doesn't have Afterlife, but it has Afterlife.
Right.
Things like that. So I'm kind of that's what I thought he might have gone for when you mentioned he was playing white-black.
Yeah. So he did kind of go with that. I think he went with 3 Tithe Takers in the main. His numbers were all weird. He had a lot of weird like 2s and 3s but I don't know. That's not how I would have built it. But I wasn't gonna, I just wanted him to build what he wanted to build, so he did what he had to do.
Right.
But so anyway, go back a little ways. So I was on red, so I knew I was going to be playing some version of red. I paid my entry fee Monday or Tuesday. And then I was testing on Arena, and I was testing in best of 3, and I was testing with mono red aggro, just the basic list, the stock list. And then I was testing the mono red Phoenix deck that was played in the Indianapolis Open a couple weeks ago. And I could not win to save my life. I couldn't win anything. I was just getting crushed. And I was ready. I was getting ready to open my email and email Star City Games Wednesday night. And I was going to be like, can y'all just refund my entry fee and I'll just play in a couple challenges? I was still going to go to the event. Mm-hmm. But, I think I tweeted out Wednesday night, I've never felt less confident about an event or less prepared for an event in my entire life.
Right.
That includes Vegas, where I showed up having never drafted the set before. Maybe we drafted it once or something from pre-release packs or whatever, Mm-hmm. But basically had never touched the set and then had to show up and draft or build sealed or whatever. But, I felt like I was pretty good on sealed in general, so I was able to make that work.
Right.
But I still felt more prepared for that because of my experience with sealed than I did for the standard event.
Right.
So I decided, okay, well, we either got to do one of two things. We got to just change the plan and go down there and play in the challenges and attack it that way, or we got to get good. You know what I mean? So
right.
I was like, all right, well, let me figure out like what's driving me nuts here and what I want to change about what I'm playing. And the first thing I decided was that the mono red aggro deck was just, there's so many cards in that deck that I did not care for. Like Get to Lava Runner, Viashino Pyromancer. These cards basically say your opponent who's playing black gains 2 life. Because they always have Moment of Craving. They always have Vraska's Contempt. Now, you can't do anything about Vraska's Contempt on any creature, but it's 4. It takes a while, you know? And cast down whatever, you know? But they always have Moment of Craving. So you got to make them have it, but they always have it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to play these 2 toughness creatures, you know? And then I started messing with the Phoenix deck. And the thing I hated most about the Phoenix deck was the Phoenix. I hated it. I was like, this sucks. Like, so, okay, I've got 3, spells. I got to play these spells. If I don't have, like, something that's going to be pinging them when I cast these spells, I'm literally just casting cantrips, paying 3 mana, and getting rid of 3 cards in my hand to get a 3/2 flyer that may or may not be in my graveyard, because I had to have a Tormenting Voice before that. It was just all this setup, and it just felt cute, and I didn't want to do cute. I wanted to do consistent.
Yeah.
And another thing that seems cute is that list that this person was running, first of all, had 18 lands. Second of all, 1 Lightning Strike. 1. I don't feel good running any amount of mountains and running 1 Lightning Strike. I was just like, this doesn't seem right. So I did what I felt like I had to do. I cut the Phoenixes. I cut the Tormenting Voices. I added 2 lands because, oh my god, 18 lands. Are you crazy? I added...
What is this, Arena?
Yeah, right? I added the 3... I maxed out on the Lightning Strikes, obviously. I added, because there was 3 of one red cantrip, 4 of the other, and I just went 4 and 4 on those, and I maxed out on risk factors. So the deck was...
So you're talking about the red cantrips are Warlord's Fury and Crash Through, is that right?
That's correct. Okay. Yes. So I just went with that. So it's 20 lands, 12 creatures, 28 spells. And if I see a swamp in game 1, the Gutter Snipes go, and you go down to 8 creatures. So it's like, all right, like all your, what are you doing? You're playing, and I go into more of like a burn deck, like just a pure burn deck. You got to keep the...
Electrostatic Fields?
You got it. Well, they obviously stay in because they're 4 toughness.
Yeah.
And then the Steamkins... You keep in because they're pretty good, but also you can discard them with risk factor. I don't want to play creatures against Esper because it just gains them life. Like the reason why, like every time an Esper player plays Mortify, I get happier.
Right.
Because I'm like, you didn't gain 2 life off of that. That is sweet, Like
right.
I'm like, I don't even care that my creature's dead. You just spent 3. You don't have counter magic up, and you didn't gain any life off your removal. So it's like, okay, if you're playing more of these, means you're playing less Moment of Craving, less Vraska's Contempt. Okay, you can have it. I'm happy. Go Mortify. Right?
Right on.
So I started playing this deck on Arena, and I had a sideboard that probably is incorrect. And I think that the sideboard, again, my main problem, I can't really speak on mulligans. I think I did pretty good on mulligans. But my main problem was that I didn't know how to sideboard, like, at all, or for this deck in particular. And I think sideboarding has always been a weakness, which is part of my part of the appeal of Best of One to me, is I'm like, I don't even need to flex that muscle. Great. So starting from Wednesday night until Friday afternoon, and I'm talking like 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night Wednesday night, I played for a couple hours Wednesday night. I played only in like the evening Thursday because I had to go do school stuff all day Thursday. I didn't even start, and I had to do school work. I didn't even start playing until about 9 or 10 at night on Thursday. And then I had to work at 3 o'clock on Friday. So you see, like, there were only a couple hour windows for me to play, and I didn't even play in the entire time in those windows.
Right.
I went from... the basement of Platinum 4 and like multiple losses at the basement of Platinum 4 to the point where I was just so demoralized to like 1 win away, well, 2 wins best of 3 to 1 win away from hitting Diamond 3.
So
right?
you went all the way through
From
Platinum, and then
all the way through Platinum and almost through Diamond 4.
Okay.
In like maybe 3-4 hours.
Right. Wow.
Like I couldn't lose with this damn deck. I lost like once or twice in like 3 days. Right? Mm-hmm. So I went from going, ready to refund my money Wednesday night to feeling like I can't lose this event Friday night. Right? And I was talking smack like I wasn't going to lose that event either. Like I was like talking the whole way down to Steven, I don't know. I don't know why they don't just hand me the trophy. Like, I don't know why we're even wasting our time with all this. I actually said at the players' meeting, I think I said, my biggest disappointment is I got to wait all the way till Sunday to win this. I wish we could just do this all in one day. Like, that's how confident I was with my deck. Right?
Right.
And round one, I played against Chris, who was playing Sultai. And I won game 1 pretty easy because the deck just does its thing, and they're like, oh my god, what? I just lost. Oh, okay. So then they sideboard. Game 2, I mulliganed to 6. I kept Light Up the Stage and 5 mountains. And I still won.
Iffy.
I won at 16 life.
Oh my gosh.
So that's how good the deck felt round 1. And that's the other thing. I wanted to talk about this because I didn't have this in the show notes. But when Joey and I was texting Joey like all the ridiculous things that I was doing with this deck leading up to the event, right? And I'm just trying to find these things. So I went from I beat double Archway. This is on Arena, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Going into the event, I beat double Archway Angel. And the Archway Angel gained 16 life every time.
Right. So that was 32 life they gained. So theoretically, you did at least 52 damage.
Yeah, at least 52 damage.
And that's clearly the Gates deck. So not many shock lands. So it's not as if they shocked themselves at all.
And then another time I was playing against Gates, I beat them. I was stuck on 2 lands with 4 risk factors in hand. Still won.
It feels like
this
Arena.
is how broken the deck felt going into the event. And I kept saying, I was like, I really feel like I'm doing the most broken thing in the entire room. And I stick by that. I really do feel like what I was doing was the most broken thing you can do in Standard. Because it's like, oh, okay, you've got this blue flyer that you can protect with Dive Down, so you're not really interacting with me, you're just trying to react to me and then kill me. I can out non-interactive you so hard, I'm like, okay, oh, so I can't point my burn spells at your creatures, whatever, face,
right?
And I still feel, so I feel good about the deck choice too, because the event was won by mono blue, right? This deck eats mono blue for breakfast. Like, if you want a deck that beats mono blue, this is the deck to play, really. Mono blue cannot beat this deck.
Well, they don't interact, like you said. You stick an electrostatic field or a gutter snipe or whatever, or both. Like, they don't seem to be inclined to do anything to your creatures except for the occasional, Merfolk trickster. Like, oh, it loses its ability for a turn.
Losing its ability, by the way, doesn't take the counters off of your Steamkin. So just keep that in mind. I always feel like it does, but it doesn't.
Right. No, it's still whatever.
It's whatever power toughness it is. If they target it, it doesn't lose the counters. It's not like Sun Cleanser or something. And what's the other thing they have? They have Exclusion Mage sometimes out of the sideboard. Yeah. That's pretty good, but you just stick it the next turn because they tapped out for Exclusion Mage.
Right.
And they don't have any creature counters except for Essence Capture, which, oh my god, if you're playing Terramander and then you put a counter on your Terramander with Essence Capture and you haven't evolved it yet, I love you. Because I actually had 2 opponents do that on Arena. Like, Essence Capture your creature, put a counter on my Terramander. One of them paid 5 to try to adapt it later. That was funny. They learned an important lesson in that game. Like, oh, this doesn't work. Oh my god. And I just lost 5 mana to make my 2/2 a 2/2. Very nice.
That's awesome. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
I laughed so hard at that, but most of the time your opponent's going to be smarter than that. So anyway, I smashed this deck, and I felt really good. And I walked up, and I saw Jeff Zandy, and I'm walking with that slip. I go, get used to it, man. It's what you're going to see all day. Me walking up with these slips, right? Unfortunately, that was the last time I walked up with a slip. But you know what? I don't care, because this is the thing. That's what I need. I need to walk into a tournament, sure, I'm going to take it down. You know, like, I have anxiety. I have real bad anxiety, you know? And, like, and I can lose my focus real quick, and I can really lose, like, my confidence real quick. It doesn't take much. It really doesn't. So I need to walk into a tournament feeling like I'm here because I will win. You know, and I'm not the kind of, but I'm also not the kind of person who thinks I deserve to win more than everyone in this room. I just think I'm prepared to win this tournament because that's what I prepared for. I prepared to win. So let's go win. And I don't care about, like, I don't feel dumb for bragging and for saying all this stuff and then not following through on any of it. I don't care, because that's where I need to be mentally to perform well in a tournament. I need to feel like I'm here for a reason, and the reason is that trophy, and it's going to be mine. You know? So that's what I need to do. I need to say these things out loud to convince myself, really, you know? And so I don't regret anything. Like, let's move on. I just want to talk about the rest of the decks I played against.
What I want to know is, like, what, you know, like, so you talked about a lot of, like, your situations, good matchups or good situations that came up, but, like, I imagine you don't really want to see double Archway Angel.
Oh, no, nobody does, right? I mean, like, nobody does.
But what I mean is, like, so what are your bad matchups with this deck? Or what, you know, cards do you not want to see?
Well, I mean, in general, you never want to see anything that gains people life.
Sure. That's, like, the obvious.
You definitely don't want to see, like, board wipes. Board wipes are a problem. I'm trying to think, like, discard spells can be a problem. It depends on if they have two. You know, like, one, okay. You know, one I can kind of deal with. Two, I don't know.
Right.
But,
so, yeah, I guess what did you end up losing to, obviously, since you have more?
Then in round 2, I played against Adam, who's playing Teamer, Wilderness Reclamation. That's what WR stands for. I was like, what does that stand for? Wilderness Reclamation. Great. So I played against them, and we got to 3 games. We played 3 games, and I won game 1. I got them to 3 game 3, but they managed to hold out, right? So I think I just drew dead the last couple turns and didn't quite. I think I was like, I can't remember what round it was. There was one round where I needed to see any spell, basically, and I could have got there. I think it was against the stick, or actually I think it was round 3. Like, I needed a spell. They did have a negate, it turns out. But if I had a spell, it would have pretty much got me very close. And that's what I needed to see. But instead, I saw, like, 5 of my 8 creatures. You know what I mean? So it was like, that's not good. But anyway, so this Team of Wilderness Reclamation deck, I wasn't sure if it would be bad against me. And I think that I definitely know I sideboarded wrong, because they wound up boarding in Cackling Drakes, which was really surprising. Right? So they had, you know, these things that could just kill me. And I should have boarded in Lava Coils if I saw Cackling Drake, right? But I also saw Niv Mizzet. So I boarded in Hijack, because Hijack's great. And guess what? I can hijack the hell out of your Cackling Drake. Like, I got spells too, man. You know, like, I got spells, and I can crack back with a Cackling Drake pretty hard. So I didn't see the hijacks. I didn't have the Lava Coils, so I did not win. But, you know, the universal thing was every opponent, win or loss, was like, your deck is so cool. Like, your deck is awesome. Because I would just draw half my deck. Right. You know? And I think that's part of the thing that's kind of frustrating with the deck, is that you draw half your deck and still don't win. It's like, oh, it's kind of rough. But, so, I don't know. There are some situations where the deck is doing less. And maybe I'm over... Like, maybe I need to make them have it with the Gutter Snipes. You know, because I boarded out the Gutter Snipes a lot.
Well,
because I'm afraid.
I understand. Like, I loved your logic with, all these decks that have removal that's life gain as well. Like, Moment of Craving, essentially, is what you're talking about. Because,
right.
Like you said, Vraska's Contempt doesn't care about toughness. So at least you can blank their Moment of Cravings or make them, I guess they could use 2 of it. They have 2 and kill your Electrostatic Field or something.
They still gain 2 life off of it.
Yeah. So it's still, they need a target, though, right? Like.
Right, but if you have Electrostatic Field, they can actually gain 2 life off of it. What was the awesome play somebody did against me? I think, it was I was playing against Esper, and and this was in like a later event. This was in a challenge because we did not get there. And my opponent had a what do you call it? Basilica Bellhaunt.
Yeah.
Right. What did I try to do to it? I tried to do something, and they Moment of Cravinged. And then they cast something else, and then they absorbed their own spell, so they wound up gaining just enough life to stay alive.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I was like, that was pretty good, so they were able to stay alive, even though I could have had them otherwise. It was tough.
Right.
But,
yeah, absorbing your own spell is, your back is against the wall, but, that's the mode that you don't, it's rarely chosen.
Right,
discard another spell.
Right?
Yeah, discard another card, gain 3 life, right? Like, basically.
But it worked.
It
worked for him, but
keeps you alive. That's what it does.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Round 3, I played against another Sultai deck, and I got him to. I got to 3 games with that also, and it was against Michael, and he was playing Sultai, but I don't remember what happened in that match, to be honest, but he did kind of crush me. So
yeah.
It was not good. I think what happened was I just seem to remember being like, I cut my Gutter Snipes, and then he's just like got all the Moment of Cravings and Vraska's Contempts against my Steamkin. I'm like, well, I just killed the Steamkin with him instead. What do I do with this, So I don't know. I was almost like, should I have cut the Steamkins too? That just seems crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like, I like your idea, and if you have the cards to bring in that nullify their target, their Moment of Cravings and things, like if you have other cards to bring in to fight on a different axis, like I think that's really awesome. But I guess at the same time, are you just making your deck bad because you're like, well, guess what? They don't have any land destruction. I'm just going to side in 15 lands. Like,
right. Well, the deck kind of turns into a little more of a pure, because like, you side out the Gutter Snipes and you side in Experimental Furies, Experimental Frenzy, and 2 Banefires.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me. Like, but yeah, I guess just thinking about it, you want to make sure you do have things to bring in, and I think that seems good. Like, Frenzy is obviously awesome. The problem with Frenzy right now is Wilderness Reclamation existing and people having a lot of enchantment hate. So you've got, like,
I'll be honest, like, I have never loved Experimental Frenzy.
Right.
Because I don't even see how you can be playing Experimental Frenzy in a format with that green Planeswalker that destroys enchantments.
Yeah, right. So you got, like, Vivian Reed. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so you just spent 4 mana, you got a land off your top of your deck and revealed a land.
Yeah. You're talking about the times when the experiment doesn't really work out.
Right. There's a lot of failed experiments in Standard.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong to not be playing it main deck. I think it's just it's a strong card when it works. I guess it's a high ceiling, and the floor kind of depends on the rest of the format. If nobody's got enchantment removal, then you're more likely to have it go off. But since so many people are playing enchantment removal, like you said, Vivian Reed and Mortify, just because of Wilderness Reclamation, because of History of Benalia, you've got Conclave Tribunal also is a nice enchantment to remove. Nobody's hitting Curious Obsession, I don't think, but usually you try to hit the creature. But I guess if you are sure they have a dive down, or you assume they have a dive down, you can just take out a Curious Obsession. So, it happens. But yeah,
I will say this.
Go ahead.
Both of my losses in round 3 against the Sultai, I'm looking at my life totals here, and I kind of figured it out. So they went from 9 to 15 in game 2, which you know what that means, right?
Timely reinforcements?
No, shut up.
I'm guessing a wild growth
walker into Jade Light Ranger.
Yep.
Yeah, and then in game 3 they went from 5 to 11. You know what that means? Same exact 2 cards. Yeah. So it kind of can get away from you, and I think I don't know. I think I might have boarded correctly, but I might not have sequenced my plays correctly. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the trickiest things. Is I really felt like Crassus wasn't going to be that big of a deal because they gain 3 life.
Yeah.
And then I'm just burning them out. Like, it's not like that big of a swing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I didn't, so it kind of confused me because they got all these 3/2s, all these 1/1s, and then they play a Crassus and they play it as a 2/2. And I'm like, well, they got a 2/2. So I'm like, maybe I board in Fiery Cannonade here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So then it's like, and then it's like, now they're playing it as a 6/6, and it's like, well, that Cannonade doesn't do anything. So it's kind of tricky. It's like it's such a flexible card, and I think that's obviously the appeal of it.
Yeah.
Hijack would have been great in a lot of situations. I only had 2, and I'm not sure that more is correct, but I sure would have liked to draw them more than I did. So maybe more than 2 is correct. I don't know.
You said you draw like half your deck, so I would probably stick with 2.
Yeah, but I mean, I needed to draw them in these games.
Yeah.
So round 4, I played against James, who is local to Common Ground. He actually hadn't played much in the last year, just like me. But Arena drug him back, and he came out to the event. He was playing mono red, and like I said, I feel like my matchup's good because of 4 sideboard Fiery Cannonade, pretty good. Lava Coil, pretty good. And just being able to, I mean, you have Electrostatic Field as a blocker, but I don't love blocking with it against red, honestly.
Right.
Because you kind of want it to live. And honestly, like, game 1, he ran me over really bad. Mm-hmm. I think it might have been a bad keep on my part. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But he ended at 14. I ended at 1 before I died. And then in game 2... I don't know how the whole round would have went, but I totally messed up my sequencing. So he played a Lava Runner, and he just swarmed me with creatures the first game. I think I just drew a bunch of like stuff, but not and the cantrips, but none of the burn spells in game 1. Mm-hmm. In game 2, I had a bunch of the burn spells. So like I went and Lava Coiled his what do you call it?
Skidoo Lava Runner.
His Lava Runner. Mm-hmm. A Lava Coiled the Lava Runner. Lava pants on Prada. Pants by Prada. That's so dumb. All right. Thank you for listening. Until next time. No. Okay. So then he sticks a Rekindling Phoenix, which I had never seen in game 1.
Right.
And then a second one. And I've got a Fiery Cannonade in hand.
Yeah.
I should have probably saved that Lava Coil. Right? And that's how I died. I died in spectacular fashion from a glaring misplay. I mean, his deck was very good, and he had very good games on top of my glaring misplays. So I'm not trying to like make excuses or not give him credit where credit is due.
He's mad that you cut his cousin from the deck. The Rekindling Phoenix is upset because you played mono red Phoenixless.
Right. My only disappointment was that I couldn't call the deck Pablo Phoenix. It's a Homestar Runner reference. So instead, I called the deck To Ryan Gurmore, Thanks for Nothing, Joe Panuska, because he
loaned you the Phoenixes.
For the deck, I didn't play Phoenixes. And then I put in parentheses mono red Phoenixless.
Yeah.
Because, and this is exactly why I said it when I wrote it on there. I was like, I want to put this in parentheses for when I'm on coverage.
Yeah.
So they know, so they have kind of a better idea of the archetype by looking at the deck name.
Right.
That's how confident I was. And I know you were trying to nudge a little bit to get me on coverage.
Yeah. But after round 1, when you said you won pretty quickly, I did try to get, I wanted to make Nick Miller aware that you're playing an interesting deck because they like to do deck techs and they don't know, if there are any interesting decks in the room until they see them. And I know they're looking at deck lists and things like that, but I wanted to at least mention it because it's not – I mean, Paul Spears played basically a very similar version, but his was about the Phoenixes and yours isn't. So I thought, if you're going to –
Phoenix is gets outclassed by like the crappiest Crassus. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I was at. I was like, do I really want to play a 2/2 that they paid 4 mana, draw a card, gain 1 life, destroy target creature?
Right.
Like, no, no, not really. And then like once it dies, then what do? What spells do you have left to play it again?
Yeah.
You know, like none. I don't know. I hated it. I hated it so much.
Right, like Phoenix
Phoenix
is awesome in Modern because you have so many ways of getting it into the graveyard, and you have so many payoffs because meanwhile, while you're sitting there trying to cast spells to bring your Phoenix back, you're taking counters off Thing on the Ice, and then you're like, okay, here's 2 Phoenixes and a 7/6, like all out of nowhere because I drew some cards and bolted you or something like that, but in Standard it's a lot harder to the payoff of a 3/2 isn't it doesn't have enough supporting casts that you don't have more of a payoff. Sure, if you can get 2-3 Phoenixes into your graveyard incidentally.
But how do you do that?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you really need to go all in on making your deck about the Phoenix, and I think that's
which means
really
you need to play blue.
I mean, possibly, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's you're not going to see it in Standard, but that's why we're not seeing it right now. Well,
you're certainly not going to see it day 2.
Well, yeah.
Because it turns out, so again, my main deck, I still feel great about. I still love it. I'm happy I have the deck built. I'm going to keep it together. I'm going to play it more. My sideboard, I'm not certain the sideboard was correct, and I'm certain my sideboarding was incorrect. So the sideboarding might need to get changed. I need to look at that and maybe talk to someone who knows more than me and figure out a better sideboard plan and actually get a sideboard plan together. But I like the deck choice, and my other option was mono red aggro, which 0 copies of mono red aggro made day 2 at the open, or even finished in like the placings worth showing on Star City Games in the Classic the next day.
Wow. Yeah. No
mono red aggro at all. There was some Rakdos, a couple. And like some other aggro decks did well. Mostly white-based aggro decks did well. But 0 copies of mono red aggro. So choosing to not play mono red aggro was 100% correct, because that would have been the same as just not showing up,
Right.
And like unfortunately for Steven lost his win in round 9. He wound up 6-3 on the day. At least I got to figure out 5 rounds earlier that I was a scrub. You know what I mean? Like, at least I was like, oh, cool. There's got a 5 guys in Fort Worth now. Later, so. Got me. That was the greatest victory of the whole day. Was that bag of 5 guys fries? I'll tell you that much. Drowning my sorrows into some Cajun potatoes. It was lovely. And then I came back and played in like one of the challenges, and I went 2-2. I'm not going to get too into it.
Right.
Got beat up by Sultai and Esper.
So yeah, it's like Standard is really awesome right now, I think, and it's interesting to see how different it is from whatever a month ago when it was before Ravnica Allegiance, and it really. So I've been trying a lot of different decks. Like obviously, the mono red I was playing a bit before Ravnica Allegiance. I haven't played with it too much. I've been playing Azorius aggro. I've been trying the Gates deck, which is a lot of fun. It doesn't feel like it should be as good as it is, but like somehow you're like, I'll tap 3 and drop an 11/11 Gatebreaker Ram. And pay 0 for this 8/8 Gateway Colossus. Right. Go. You're like, what? It's just insane.
Now, one thing I will say about playing Hijack is that if you take a Gatebreaker Ram, it's a 2/2.
Yeah.
You can kill it with a burn spell, but it's a 2/2.
Yeah.
But the Colossus is sweet.
Yeah.
You can take a Colossus, take that damn Colossus.
Yeah, I think I actually saw someone playing this morning, and or last night. I think it was Gabe Nassif on his stream. He was playing like a Simic kind of deck. Like it wasn't like Simic Reclamation or anything. It was just like a Simic mid-range, and he used mass manipulation to steal somebody's Gateway Colossus, and he won the game. He was like, I'm pretty sure I lost that game if they didn't play Gateway Colossus because that's how I won the game. I had to take their Gateway Colossus. It had to be there. It was kind of amusing, but
mass manipulation is a crazy card. That's a card that Steven didn't expect. His opponent in round 9 had that in their main deck.
Wow. Yeah.
And took one of his tokens for 0 mana. Like, oh no, not mass manipulation.
You thinking an ensnare? What is it? Enchanting Melody?
That one, main deck.
Yeah. No, that one I've seen more main deck. Yeah.
Paid 0, took a token.
Well, paid 2, right? Like not 0.
2,
but
right?
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Zero, X was 0. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. Really cool. Like really cool. I was like, what? Okay, that was pretty nuts. But anyway, I feel like mono red aggro is in a terrible place right now, and you should not play it at all. And I also think that they should unban Rampaging Ferocidon because everyone's just got this incidental life gain, and I hate seeing like an archetype not be viable. You know,
yeah.
Burn is a very cool deck in terms of some people hate it, but the people who play it hate control. Control decks are around. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they should all exist. And I feel like the deck right now has no chance of success unless there's like a Rampaging Ferocidon or like a Skullcrack reprint would be great. You know, something like that something that says players can't gain life this turn. We have War of the Spark. Love that name, and I'm like excited about the flavor of that set.
Yeah.
Coming up in like, when is it?
Well, the pre-release weekend is April 27th.
Okay, so it's actually 2 months away. Okay, I thought it was like end of March, beginning of April. Is there anything else happening that weekend of note?
I mean, I'm sure there's nothing important like a Pro Tour happening that weekend in London.
Because they would never do a Pro Tour the same weekend as a pre-release, right? That would be stupid.
Yeah,
that would literally be the stupidest thing they could ever do.
Well, it would be pretty stupid if they did that because you have these two exciting things. You don't want them to take up. You want to spread them out because you could go, hey, we have the pre-release April 20th, and it's this exciting thing, and next week is the Pro Tour. Like that makes a lot more sense. Doing them on the same weekend, you're using up all your excitement all in one weekend. That would be silly, and
that would be silly. Yeah,
and of course, if they did do that, I'm sure they'd have a really good reason that they'd tell us about ahead of time.
Right, I mean, because, Wizards of the Coast is really good at making announcements and keeping us, the players, and, really the investors in the game informed in a timely manner of any sweeping changes or important changes they might make to tournament schedules, coverage, etc.
Right,
so,
always.
So it makes a lot of sense.
Always replying on Twitter to an obscure tweet and letting us know.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, that's important. That's the best way to inform us.
Yeah, make announcements
is
in
subtweeting.
Twitter replies. Yep.
Right.
They should post it as a GIF so you can't control F it too. Like it's like or just like a JPEG. All their announcements are JPEGs, so you can't. They don't come up in search results.
But keep an eye out for that Mountain Goats album.
Right. Oh yeah, Mountain Goats. Make sure that happens.
I am pretty excited about a Mountain Goats album that's like fantasy based because they're kind of awesome.
It is cool.
But yeah.
Wizards, you can do better. You're better than this.
I think we don't even need to go into it. I think you can tell from our sarcasm how we feel about the situation, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So we do need to wrap up. I want to say, I want to shout out to my teammates at the team event. Kenny played Sultai. That deck is awesome. Kenny had been playing it for a few days, and I know he's still kind of working on different versions. He did pretty well with it. That is such a grindy deck, and I know it's such a good deck that you see a lot of mirror matches, so those matches go long. But I still think it was
once you get that Royal Assassin Icy combo down, it's pretty much impossible to lose.
Well, there you go. But no, I think it was still like the right deck for him to choose.
Sure,
it's a very good
deck.
Big player in the metagame. And then Rusty Call was our legacy player, and he played Death and Taxes.
Rusty!
Yeah, Rusty is really good. He's a really good player, and I was really impressed with his knowledge of Burn. I didn't realize when I chose Burn that he already had a lot of experience with the deck, so I was able to kind of lean on him for a lot of opinions when I said, this is a terrible hand, I should throw this back, right? And he'd be like, yeah, you don't keep that. Okay, so I'm not crazy, right? No, but he was really good about talking about the Burn deck with me. Even after the event, we tried to kind of change up the deck a bit, and it was fun. So I still had a great event, even though the actual result in the tournament wasn't ideal.
Yeah, and shout out to Rusty and Wes and Lloyd and Mark, who wasn't playing against y'all, but I know he took the picture. So
yeah, Mark
respect,
was there.
And Kenny, of course. But I hadn't seen Rusty in so long. I was surprised when I saw he was your teammate. I was like, "Is that Rusty? Oh wow, what's up?" I was like, "That's so cool." So shout out to those guys because it's been a while since I've been around playing with y'all, and it was fun when I did. So.
I felt bad because he was playing Death and Taxes, and he would ask me like my opinion, and I'm like, I've never played Death and Taxes, and it's been years, like literal years, since I really paid much attention to Legacy, so I don't feel confident at all in giving you an opinion.
Right, he's got to call Travis Hunt for that.
But yeah, I guess we should wrap things up, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Anything else you want to mention at the end here? I don't know if I skipped over anything that you had written down, or
I don't know. I think I'm pretty good.
Okay.
We did do like a quick little Twitter poll, and I just want to announce. So we asked when we were still kind of keeping it under wraps that Joey was on Burn. Who's the beatdown? Red Deck wins or Martyr? And 67% said Burn, and 33% said Martyr.
Yeah, and several people, including Mike Flores and Adrian Sullivan, kind of chimed in on the topic, and it was fun. It was a fun little discussion. What was the date of that poll? Do you know? Do you have it written?
I don't know. Okay. It might have been a month ago.
Yeah, it was about mid-January. So if you kind of look back at our Twitter feed, if you're curious about the discussion, check it out. Just look around for the poll in mid-January. So we could link it in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely. Also, what I didn't realize, just like the Jace the Mind Sculptor, I didn't know Bloodbraid Elf was unbanned in Modern.
Yeah, they came out together.
I didn't look past the first line of this announcement here. I was like, oh, Jace the Mind Sculptor. And then I was like, Bloodbraid Elf? So, pretty neat.
Well, according to Chaz Andres on SCG, now is the best time to buy into Modern because prices are relatively low at a low point, and Modern usually picks up in the next couple of months, or basically around now, February, March, April. Like that's when Modern starts to get more interesting, and or not more interesting, more eyes on it. People start playing a lot more Modern, depending on what tournaments are happening. But and then the other thing is, he really suspects that Wizards is going to be coming out or going to be announcing. Apparently at the end of February, the possibility of a Modern-only set that includes reprints and new cards going straight into Modern, similar to what they've done for like Commander and Legacy, or putting new cards into Legacy by introducing them in Commander and Battle Bond and things like that. So that would be awesome, I think.
Yeah, and I have to just say that I think that article was like super well timed or super poorly timed, depending on what side of the transaction you're on, with the arrival of my student loans for the semester. I don't think I'm going to buy into Modern, but it sure is tempting just to at least put Burn together, since I have like about half of it, maybe. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I was just like, oh, really? Like, I'm sitting there looking at my bank account going, oh my God, so much money. Oh my God. This is the best time to buy into Modern. I have so much money. This is the time to buy into Modern. I have no more money. I have Modern. So anyway, yeah, but it's a very interesting article, and it's an interesting take. I didn't reply to your text, but I did read the article the second you sent it, because I was conveniently on a break when you sent it.
Cool.
So
we'll link it in the show notes.
Definitely.
All right. Well, until next time, we are Yo MTG Taps.
Make 'em have it.